A little bit of history besides what you told you. If you remember in optometry school, we all practiced on each other. I was the guy that no one wanted to work on. Because back then we didn't know why and what the big problem was, but finally they figured out that Dr. Leonard's got keratoconus. So not only do I treat a lot of these, I live with keratoconus. And I'm going to get into all this, but because we're in the back of your mind, keep that in mind. You know, this is a lifestyle for me. None of you don't have keratoconus. You know, these aren't just regular contact lenses, all these specialty things. They're really a device. I call them a prosthetic device when I talk to my patients. So it's part of the whole thing that makes people successful is remembering all that. Let's see if this will play. The guy picked up his lenses yesterday and was all ecstatic. I didn't see it. Let's see if I can. So what I want to talk about more is the, we all know about all the ectasias that walk into our office all the time. And there's keratoconus that I inherited from my family, a bunch of cousins, and that were all afflicted. But we get all types, we name them all, nipple cones, pellucid type, and all these things. And it's how are we going to treat these people to do it? And then nowadays, more and more, I'm doing these post-RK people that did pretty good for a while maybe, and now they can't see anymore. Some occasionally post-LASIK, the problems, not with the people that are here today, of course. Occasionally you get those, and then post-graft patients. So we got to get these people to see, and how we're going to do that. Also, now more and more, I get all these strange patients sent over to me that have other conditions that require a specialty lens, and whether they have Stevens-Johnson's disease or some mineral deficiencies, and just even some severe dry eyes. And you're going to find, I find that most all of these ectasias and other problems, the whole system doesn't work well. Keeping in mind things like Xydra and other products to get this full biofilm working well is also a big part of what we do in putting lenses, especially on some of these other conditions. The big part, nowadays everybody, I want to talk a lot about scleral lenses because those are pretty hot and fun and new lenses, but it's really the continuum of care we need to think about for keratoconus. As we know, we get some of these mild cases or form-free kind of cases, and maybe just a little soft lens or soft toric lens is going to work on, and even some of the pellucid type where it looks really funky on your maps, but central part of the cornea is not bad. Sometimes a soft toric or a specialty soft toric with a high sil is going to do the trick. But when those things don't work anymore, where do we go? And we have just RGPs. You take a good Rose K type of RGP lens on a nice milder cone, and that can certainly work well. I think we all got to remember that. I wore those for 20, 30 years, Rose K lenses with a reclaimed bifocal in it. I loved them. But still, they would occasionally fall out of my eye, and occasionally I'd be doing my sports, and dust would go under them, and I was miserable, and other stuff that, for me now, sclerals are a lot better. But it's working our way through and finding what's best for that patient. We have hybrid lenses now, and then all the sclerals that we can do so much with. And why scleral lenses? And it's really because of a lot of the things we know. They're very comfortable. They're a big lens. Why are any lens comfortable? It's not that they're soft or hard. They're big. They're tucked under our lids. They're stable. They're not moving. That's also vision's a lot better from lenses that are rocking around on here. And they work pretty good on all those type of things we were talking about. Whether they're a typical nipple cone or they're a real oblate post RK or graft eye, we can design lenses to fit on them. A lot of patients and us doctors, you used to think this, how are we going to even do this? You show it to a patient and it's as big as a quarter. How are you going to get this either 16 or 23 millimeter lens in their eye? They're actually not, they're pretty, sometimes they're easier than other lenses because you've got little holders for them and all that stuff. They can be costly. Somebody like myself, I can't operate any other way. I don't see the glasses. People need these devices. So they're going to figure out a way. Hopefully they have VSP if that's necessary, or somebody else will help with that also. And it is complicated, but now with a lot of the new diagnostic equipment we have and these new designs, it doesn't have to be real complicated. They're great, as most of you know, we fill them up with saline. So again, not only are they good to make me see better, but they're really nourishing and beneficial to our corneas. Nothing like having some nice fluid on my cornea all day. It doesn't dry out. Just for a simple dry eye patient, this is sometimes your answer. We get into it. I've been talking to some of you who come over to my office, and we start looking at how we're going to fit these, how we fit these lenses. And it's really, there's three aspects to these. How is it going to vault over that cornea? And this little thing from Fair State, you can get this online. It just talks about how do you, evaluating the depth of that lens on the cornea. I like to fit, when it's finally said and done, at the end of the day on a scleral patient, I like to have about 200 microns over the cornea, and as evenly distributed as we can. But just always estimating how many microns you're separating there. Another pointer, so you're looking at that distance. And so there's the central vaulting, which is probably the easiest thing to do, either by viewing it under your microscope, which I'm going to show you some more of that. But then the tougher, the things that get a little tougher and a little more art to it is how are we getting over that limbus? And the limbus, as we all know, is very important. You've got your stem cells. So if we're smashing down on those limbal cells, they aren't going to be real happy. And also, I was once talking to Pat Caroline, who's up in the Pacific, and does a lot of studies for us. I said, well, why not just vault it like crazy? Just land way out there, but you'll find that the limbus can get sort of waterlogged and bogged down and that. So you really got to get over that, maybe about 50 microns. Well, that's not a lot to play with. And how do we do that with our eye, and then how do we use that other instruments to look at that? And then we come out further on the lens, and there's the edge. How's it landing on the sclera so we don't have compression or impingement, which we'll get into two sort of separate things, and make a nice, comfortable lens. We're not just putting eye drops in our eyes. So, all the lenses, there's a lot of nomenclature, and what's interesting, every company, and again, I have no financial disclosures. I don't get paid by any of these companies, and they can, I wouldn't mind. But I use all different kinds of lenses, but they all have sort of different nomenclature, which can get confusing, but you have a base curve in the center, and then you've got some mid-periphery curves, and then you get into your landing zones out there on the edge. So what I like is there's a Zen lens. A lot of you might be familiar with all the Zen lenses, and I like their approach to it. It's very easy. I teach a lot in the office with my interns, and they seem to get this. And then you can put that into any lens, because again, they're all basically the same. So you've got a base curve. They have something called a smart curve. Then you have the limbal going over the limbus, and then the landing. And so what you need to think about, if you want to change one of these things, like here I want to raise that limbus up to the green. If I said all I want to do with that, I want to keep everything else the same, well then they have the smart curve that keeps everything else in the same position. And again, anybody else would do that too, it's just some different nomenclatures. I want to get a different edge. Well, if I flatten the edge more, the whole thing's going to lower, but I want to bring it back up in the center because that was already perfect. And you have to think about all those relationships when you build the bridge over the cornea, keeping what you want and get rid of what you don't want. The art of it, for most of you in this room, you look at fluorescein patterns, and you're used to it maybe on an RGP, and under a contact lens like a scleral, you can see it real well. So that's real nice, is that we can see that fluorescein between the cornea on the left and the front of the lens over there. Keep my hand from shaking. Now you can see pretty well, but also people don't walk into the office with fluorescein in their eye, which would be very helpful. I've tried to do that, but it doesn't work. They're going to come in, you're going to look at it like this and say, what's going on? So there's a typical picture. I love photography, so it's really cool. You can get some nice shots. But you can see there that to the left, the cornea, there's a little space in the back of the lens and the front of the lens. And you've got to look and say, well, how much clearance is that in the center? How much clearance is that out in mid-periphery? Your guideline is the contact lens itself. So the diagnostic lenses are going to tell you it's 250 or 300 microns. Or when you order the lens from the patient, depending on their prescription, they're going to tell you again what the thickness of it is. So you've got to train your eye to say, well, if that lens is 250 microns, sort of know the cornea, but all these keratoconic corneas are all, they can be 300 microns and they can be 500 microns. When the contact lens is stable, and you got to judge and tell your eye, well, is that spacing 200 microns, is it 250 microns, or 300 microns? And that's just with time you get it. Now, over the years, I did that. Then I started using my OCT, which I'll show you later, to actually measure it. You can really calibrate your eye. What I used to think was 300 microns, the OCT kept telling me it was 200 microns, told my brain to start figuring that out better. So it comes with time, and you can really, I'm within probably, sometimes 25 microns. We always have a little contest with my interns. I'll put down our guess and what it is, and then we go measure it with the OCT and give prizes to people in the courses. So there's another picture of that. So again, you can look in the center, and you can start looking out towards the periphery in here. So if this one, if you look way up here at the top, you see that spacing starts to get real narrow. And scleral lenses, like most, and even the anatomy of the sclera and everything else, anything that's going to usually ride a little bit low, hopefully not too much, but usually going to get a little bit of a meniscus shape to that whole spacing, so that usually the superior mid-periphery is going to be the, and more than nasal and temporal, is going to usually be within this part. You've got to see, do you have enough clearance there, or what are we going to do about that? And now you've got, now with the fluorescein you can see the different patient, but you've got that nice green all the way up there. And if we go out into that, with the microscope at the limbus, you can see, well, you've got 25 or 50 microns, 360 degrees over that limbus area that have a nice happy eye. These are sort of, on the left, that's poor limbal clearance. You can see bearing 360 degrees around. And it gets a little better at the center, and then pretty acceptable on the right. And it's how do you increase the limbal bearing. So on some lenses, like a Zen lens and others, they actually will say, let's raise that limbal up. How much do you want to raise it? And they have guidelines, and the consultants will help you with that. If you saw something with 360 degrees like that, you probably need another couple hundred microns in the limbus area. You saw just a smaller amount like there, maybe 50% in the middle, maybe you need about 100. And so that's one way to do it, but another way, and again, other manufacturers do it, what if you just took that whole, and flatten that whole base curve and bring that out further before it lands. And that's the way, like the synergized DS lens works and that. So it's all about, you got to think like building a bridge over that cornea and different ways that we can involve those different areas. Again, on the left, very unacceptable limbus, so if somebody wears that, they're going to come in complaining, take that lens off, you're probably going to have 360 degrees of staining that whole limbal area, showing you that those cells are very unhappy. It's not breathable. Again, over on the right side, by this one, we just want a larger lens and a larger optical zone. We brought it out over that limbus area to make it more comfortable. Now, if anybody has any questions during it, I'm certainly happy to stop.
How do you decide which type of scleral lens?
That's a good question. I was asking what type of scleral lens and how do you know which one you want to use? And when do you use a scleral lens? And I think, well, we'll get it up, but when do we use a scleral lens? And again, Pat Caroline, who's sort of my guru in this field, up at Pacific University, and Mark, his partner, they've done a lot of studies, and we've come up with this. You take a look at the topography map, and we go, wow, that looks strange. And really, we've got to look at the elevation of that cornea. And there's a number now, about 250 to 300 microns. If you have that difference in height between the low point of the cornea and the high point of the cornea, if it's under 200 microns, 250 microns, you probably, some other lenses are going to work. A small RGP Rose K, 9mm might work. Some of the soft Keratoconus lenses might work. When you start getting over 350 microns, 300 microns, how do you approach a lens on top of that point? Because we know they'll be look good, and they're bearing on the center and scarring up the cornea and falling off, and all the other problems that we have all put up with for a long time. So that's when I start looking at larger lenses, whether it's going to be a hybrid lens or now more and more scleral lenses, which brand you like. And what I feel we all should do is have usually at least 2 or 3 companies that you work with. And you have one that's sort of your bread and butter lens, and for me it's actually the Alden Zen lens. It comes in 16, 17 millimeters, has a lot of great features, micro bulbs and things which I'll get into, and that can work for a lot of patients. But some of these are going to need more than that, and you're going to need a larger lens, maybe a 20 millimeter lens, 18 millimeter lens, or things that the Zen lens doesn't do. We have another company or two to do that. There's also the Boston Sight lens now, which only starts at 18 millimeters and goes up from there. So there you need to have those choices in your pocket. And you've got to learn is to have a couple companies and work with them, learn their system and work with their consultants. And there's nothing better than you can even take a picture like I showed you, send it in and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at, what do we do? That's how I started doing these 10 years ago. Actually with Bob Gordon, a lot of you might know, he's now retired. He and I and a few docs in his living room of his house in Encino probably a dozen years ago did our first lenses, put them on each other and said, this is crazy. And now I do them all day long. The other part is, the edge of the lens. I don't know how do I keep moving on, because I don't know what the time is, but how does that edge land on the eye? That one looks real nice. The eye is white on both sides. The vessels go through. You get impingement or compression. Those vessels are going to stop. So that's what we want to look for. But it's then looking for the other problems. Tight lenses or impingement and compression are sort of easier to see, which we'll get to next. But it's sort of that edge lifting. And it's sort of hard to see. You try looking with the light from different angles to see if you can see that shadow. But again, this is where also an OCT can look and sort of cheat and show you sticking up or something like that. It's sort of nice to use I get more use out of my OCT than I do after anything else. So it's nice to have my $60,000 piece of equipment doing something instead of sitting there with my glaucoma patients that I can't treat because they're patient. And here's, then the patient comes in, I look at the lens, I say, I don't know, what am I seeing? Put a little fluorescein on the front of that lens and see what it does. Here's a little bit of cooling underneath. If you're really lifting, you're just going to see that fluorescein rush underneath and start filling up that lens, where it looks like almost you're already filled up with foam and put it in their eye. So that's real loose. Usually if the edge is lifting, that's when patients are going to be complaining about just lens awareness, just like any other contact lens. They feel the edge, they don't feel the front surface. So here's a lens that's got a lot of impingement. You can see vessels are injected, they're not going through, things don't look happy. Here's when we take the lens off, you can still see the mark from the lens on, and patients will come in some morning or come to see me and say, hey doc, if I take my lens off at night, it looks like it's still on. So that's a nice clue. You sort of pick up on that and say, probably got something, and then you're going to see it. And then you can take the lens out and stain, and there again, it looks like the lens is still on, and there's a nice ring. Where is it? Is it going all the way around, or is it just on the sides? And that you can decide then if you can change those edges, which we're going to talk about. So that's, this is sort of an impingement, that's that edge digging in. And then there's also compression. And they're related, but they are different. So there you can see that whole APS, that whole zone is compressing into the eye. So that we know that whole thing has got to come flat. The other part we run into is bubbles in a lens. 99% of the time it's insertion bubble. Unless the lens is real flat and sucking bubbles under, you're going to know that. So generally we're going to see little bubbles or big bubbles. What's interesting, on these ones, usually those bubbles are stationary. You take the lens off and there's a stain, which is that perfect shape of that. And those, what they do, I put my lenses in the morning, and if the bubbles, this big central one like that, certainly I can't see, I know the bubbles there. But those little bubbles, again, I don't see that well, I'm also presbyopic, so I walk away and about 5 minutes later my lens starts to sort of burn or sting, and that's where that cornea is drying out. So I go back, reinsert my lens and get on with the day. But hopefully it's pretty rare that I do that. If you want to come rushing out people. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'm going to get to a couple of case studies, is there's other things besides scleral lenses. The lens I'm using a little bit more now, there's a Novacone, but there's other soft keratoconic lenses. There's the Keratoconus IC Thin now. There's Simple K. There's a few others out there. And these can correct a lot of people. And why I'm going to pick that one or the other? Some patients, you're going to talk about a scleral, or you're going to show it to them, and they're going to freak out. They might, a patient might have what's in their head. I've always, people would walk in my door and say, I want I want an AccuView lens, and I'm saying, no, this Alcon lens is better. But I've learned over the years that you sort of got to get what they want. I go in my bicycle store, this side, I tell them I want a Colnago, and they try to sell me something else, but I want that, and they better bring this. That's what they sell me. So sometimes what people want, you got to sort of look and see if we can get the vision and the eye health for these kind of things. So very similar. They have, there's a base curve on these lenses. They have what's called an IT factor to make it thicker. So you're trying to mask off these irregularities, but they also have these aspheric back surfaces, so it's more than just a thick lens. And you look at these with fluorescein, which is pretty interesting, and you kind of see this is their guidelines, how it should look, and it's not too steep and not too flat, somewhere in the middle, sort of feathery touch, and that's the optimum fit. And then you're going to start, you can also look at that in the cross section, and then you're going to start playing with the eye. If that doesn't get enough good vision, then you're going to start increasing this IT factor, making it thicker, and sometimes you can get pretty good vision. I just had a LAPD applicant who actually had an a hybrid lens, and they cannot wear a hard lens. When they came down, they filled out that form. I didn't think I should sign my name off to that. It's not really a soft lens. So I said you got to refit them, and we were able to refit them and get them 20/20 vision and get them into the police department instead of a hard lens. There's also the synergized hybrid lenses. There's the Ultra Health, and now there's actually an Ultra Health FC, which is a flatter lens for more oblate, post-arcades or post-LASIK kind of things. And these also you can come in all different shapes and sizes. And this is how they work, that the rigid lens in the center and the soft skirt to land out there. The biggest issue with these is sometimes people only have residual astigmatism and things that you can put in a scleral lens. You have no way to put that in these hybrids. And also the part I find most unforgiving in these is people that have more peripheral aphasias, especially pellucid type and that. It's sort of where the junction of the hard and the soft lens sits, and I can never seem to get those to work too well. But they do have their application. And they also even have the Duet, which is their more simple hybrid. So those low cones are not real steep. That series of lenses can work real well. And this is how they land. Again, you're going to vault the cornea, just like the scleral does. You're going to vault it maybe by 50 to 100 microns, and then you get into this whole landing zone where that's going to support the weight of the lens out there. It starts on the cornea and then goes out to the sclera, to the soft skirt. And they're sort of in the OCT image. And one thing I did learn from Jeff Sensino, who's in Tennessee, with a lot of this stuff. And one of the biggest problems with hybrids, you might have patients complain, is they're hard to get out. They sort of suction on your eye. I performed for a while. I hated tearing them out of my eye. And what he taught me, it was very off-label use, but it works well. We take a little acupuncture needle, we make a little fenestration, you call it, in the skirt, for one in each quadrant, and it really releases that suction. So do that maybe 20% of these hybrids I do, and it works well. Synergize has actually talked about maybe doing that, making it not off-label, doing it themselves somehow, but we'll see. That hasn't come around. Last time I spoke with them, they're sort of looking at it. They don't think it's as big a problem as you do. The other new thing out there, tangible hydropeg. This is a new coating that can be applied. Synergize is actually putting it on most all their lenses now. CEO of the company. At first it was an add-on. You could say, I want it, I don't want it. And he realized how good it is. It really makes the lens material wet a lot better. So they've done it on most of their lenses. Some of the scleral lens labs and RGP labs will offer that. Not all of them have the equipment yet. It's pretty costly. But it really makes the lens slippery. You take a one lens, or a regular scleral lens has a plasma coating, which wets pretty well, and you pick up the hydropeg, it's sort of fly out of your fingers. So slippery. It is a little bit more care. You have to not rub it off and not use the wrong materials. So we don't use it on everybody. There's also an upcharge. Another, it's going to cost you another $60 for that patient. And sometimes these things multiply out. But it's a good thing to have. And with Synergize now, they just came out with a soft daily lens with tangible hydropeg on top. Sort of looks pretty neat. Sort of be like a GT1, but the Total 1 is going to wet really well. Synergize also realized, again, they want that whole continuum of care. They came out with their scleral lens. And this came out from Dr. Visser in the Netherlands. It was actually pretty cool. A couple of years ago, he and his crew from the Netherlands came to my office, and all the bigwigs from Synergize and all their field consultants came, and we fit half a dozen patients in my office to learn how the lens work. It was very interesting. This is one of the biggest in the world that has developed lenses, and we need to learn. I look at a topography map, and now I look at a profilometer, look at the sclera, and see what it is, and he would just look at people, and he could do it in his head. He would do topography, and he would look at the sclera, and he could tell you exactly how flat or steep and any meridian. It was pretty amazing. They have a good lens. It's made out of Menicon Z material, handy. It's just really high bleeding material. And his whole thing is, and what we know from studies, the cornea is round, but the sclera really isn't round. It goes off in a tangent, and this has been proved in a lot of studies now. So his lens is built on that premise that it's going to land a lot better if you actually make that tangent up there. And it does seem to work real well. The fitting set's neat because it comes with already toricity in the periphery, which most people are going to need, so it makes the fitting, diagnostic fitting a little smoother. So it's another thing to keep in mind. There's the edges landing. On the left is more of a curved lens, and the other on the right is their tangent, showing that's much softer landing. And when I teach my interns, so we've got to make that landing. It's like if you're walking around in snow, you don't want a high heel sinking down. You want a snowshoe, supporting a lot of pressure on that, so you don't sink in. That's the idea. More left. There's there again. They have their own nomenclature. We have the sagittal depth of the lens, and the scleral lens. And yeah, they follow the shapes. So I want to go a couple of cases. This was a gentleman, 31 years old, a keratoconic patient I fit about 4 years ago. And like most of our patients, they're doing well, he disappeared. Right? It's like our LASIK patients. You guys fix them up great, they never come back for another eye exam. He didn't come out. All of a sudden, 4 years later, he shows up. And he says, they're pretty good, but after a few hours, my eyes get a little red, but I'm still real happy, and I'm doing okay. And we'll see in 20/25 minus. He goes, it's a little hard at night, and all this stuff. And so we started to look what we can do. So a lot of these people, they come in with their lens on, and that's going to distort things. It distorts your topography, and it distorts when we go to do this profilometry, we'll see. So the toughest thing is I got to ask him, well, can you come back someday without your lenses on? Take them off one night and come in the morning, get something to drive you. I did this one day to get my own lines measured again. And so most people can do it. Once in a while they say no, and you just got to punt and it's do the best you can. But they'll usually say, yeah, thanks, Doc, I'll do that. They'll come in first thing in the morning, so then they can get on the day after that. So we came in, we took some new topography maps, familiar with those, especially the axial one in the center. Down the bottom left, that's your elevation map. And you really got to start thinking about that elevation. You've got, almost off the map, but you've got, 400 microns difference between his lowest point and his highest point. Which you can't really tell if you look at the actual map how high it is. You really don't know. Some of them look real high and they're not. Try to look from the side with the microscope. How much sagittal depth is I'm pretty good at. I do it a lot, but sometimes I think that looks real steep, and I'll used to go put a real steep diagnostic lens on the eye, and it was stupidly wrong. We did that elevation map, and this is another eye that, some of you might have heard, I've spoken at a couple of other meetings, short about the profilometry that's out there now. We can measure the sclera. I have an instrument called the Eaglet Eye Profiler from the Netherlands. I think there's about 30 or so in the United States now. There's also the Esler, I think has something called S-shape, where they can do similar. And now the new Pentacam can do it. Those two, they'll have to do it, and you have to stitch together a few images. This takes all in one image, and I think it's a little more accurate at this point. But you can see the cornea, right here. Sometimes your topographer only measures the central part of the cornea. You don't even get the full cornea because topographers don't do it. But now you get the whole cornea, and you're way out there on the sclera. You're out to 16 millimeters or so. And just like the topographer, those colors are telling you how it's shaped. So in his case, almost at this 45-degree angle, those blue is telling you it's very steep in that meridian, it's sclera, and the red is more flat. And studies have shown, and this is all due to the insertion of the muscle, our ocular muscles, how they're seeing the sclera and bulging it up and pressing it down and doing all that. And everybody's different. Normal corneas are just asymmetric sclera, or more so than a keratoconic or other aphasia cornea. There's no correlation at all. So you can have a terrible looking cornea, the worst, weirdest shape you've ever seen, and the sclera could be spherical. But most everybody, I fit 90% of toric periphery scleral lenses. And Dr. Lab, look up in those numbers also. So that's what we looked at. His old lens was not toric in the periphery. I didn't know how to do them. I didn't do them years ago. So that's what he was wearing. And the instrument that will tell us that, it's hard to see, but it's going to tell what the sagittal height at that chord length that we need a contact lens on, and how much the APS should be, how much toricity should be in that periphery as well. This is then looking at the lens on his eye, or the lens that we ordered. He came back for his checkup. Looked real nice, 270 microns in the center. The edges are landing real nice. And he came in going, wow. Now he's 20/20, not getting the glare. And the other interesting part is first lenses, probably because how they were sitting on his eye, had to do a front toric lens, which introduces more issues, because you're going to count where they're going to sit, or either exactly, still right on. We didn't need a toric lens this time, a front toric lens. And he's getting much better vision, and he's saying, I wear them now 10, 12 hours, and my eyes are feeling pretty good. So the more we know about, and the more the lenses are getting better and better, the better we can do. And this lens was the Zen lens, we ended up with the sagittal depth and flat down. And we had a flat 3 and steep 5. They go in the steps of 30 microns. So we're really flat, about 100 microns, and steep about 150 microns, a little different. So he's off about 250 microns, which is a lot. I think when people are asymmetric, 100 or less, maybe you don't need all this fancy stuff, but most people are more than that. This is the last case study. This is a woman I just saw again. She was going for checkup the other day. Her right eye had a failed graft, so just sort of count fingers and waving. They're deciding what to do on that. So she wants to see out of her left eye. The best we could get out of a pair of glasses is 2250. She also had cataracts in that eye, which they don't want to operate on. And right now, she's a one-eyed person until we get the other eye. They'll eventually get the cataract in the left. But see, what can we do for her? She certainly wasn't real happy. Her daughter brings her in all the time. She's dry. We look at those, our topography maps. Again, what does that tell you? Not a lot. You barely can measure anything. You can see what's going on. There's so much distortion. You can see down the bottom right on the placebo image. Using poor vision. And then we use a new instrument, the Eaglet, and again, now we can actually, it does get a topography map of the cornea. And there's different ways to break this out. We can look at it in 3D maps, and I can spin that around, and it looks pretty cool, and patients love it. So what it actually does, it'll measure it over there on the left. I can put in what diameter cord length I want on the contact, and it's going to tell me what that sagittal depth should be, and what that periphery should be, how many microns different. In our case, I think it's close to about 400 microns difference in the horizontal and vertical meridians out there. And this company also has about 30 different contact lens companies' algorithms built in. So you can say, I want to use this particular lens, you push a button and it'll tell you that lens, go to your diagnostic kit and put that lens on. We still need to measure the power. I still want to look at the lens on the eye, because hopefully we still have that art. There's still some art to doing this. But we can put that lens on and basically do an over refraction, and then you almost have your final lens at that point. The cornea on this eye was pretty scarred up, very tilted over, a mess. Also, someday we should do a graft in there. We don't know now if it's more of the vision we're able to achieve is from the scarring of the cornea or the cataract. The cataract is pretty luminescent and it takes photos and all that, so that'll be the next step. The right eye lens. I thought that was a pretty dramatic picture. So you do the best you can to try to fit this very funny looking cornea. We can't parallel the whole thing, because we got good central clearance, and then there's good landing, which we don't see all the way out there. There's the landing, very nice job. sort of an atypical looking because her cornea falls off so quickly. And then what instruments do you need? Obviously, having this Eaglet instrument is great, but it's not what you need unless you're doing a lot of these. Is it worth that, $25,000 or whatever it costs? But you certainly need, I think you need a topographer. Some people say maybe you can just look at the cornea, but I think most of us have topographers in there. And if your topography will tell you things like the elevation and the corneal diameter. It also, besides these scleral lenses and everything, it's giving you a lot more information even about any specialty lens. Fit multifocal lenses, sometimes they're working and they're not. Why aren't they? Well, if you know that the pupil's offset and everything else is offset, it's going to give you more information even for that. So if your topographer can tell you a lot more than, you got to look and see what it will tell you. The HVID, for years, I used a little ruler. I think we all did that. And then I started looking at both my topographer and the Eaglet, which measure it, and I realized how far off I was with the ruler. You smash it right up against the cornea, there's still a lot of parallax. It's nicer to be a little more accurate. It makes your end product a little better. And that, like I showed you on that gentleman before, a one-and-done scleral lens is nice. First lens I ordered, it's perfect, we're done. I'm happier, he's happier, everything's great. So in the old days, I would do a scleral lens. First lens was sort of my diagnostic lens. Then we'd start to fine-tune that. Four lenses later, we had a final product. And now, the first or maybe the second lens, we kind of tweak some things that is going to do it. So the good topographer you want, I think anterior segment photography is really, really helpful. And for years, all I used was like on the left, it was my little iPhone. They have little adapters, little cups. You can make them yourself on YouTube. But for $80 or $50, you can buy these little things that hook on your particular phone, stick it on the ocular, so you got both hands to do all the rest of the photography. And a lot of those photos you saw up here, my older photos, are from my cell phone. But recently, maybe a year ago or so, Jen, I got a slit lamp camera. I got this one called the Firefly. But it's pretty amazing. You can get obviously much better images. A little easier to store them and put with the patient's name and all that in the database. It's pretty easy with the phone, though, the cell phone. I would take their pictures, and I'd take a picture of their name, and then I just email them into our staff, and then they would add them to the patient's folder in the EHR. So it's actually pretty easy to do, but the database is in there. So the photos are helpful to yourself. You can show them to patients what we're doing, what we're looking at, and why we can make things better and why this is the best we can do. And also, again, using it for the lab. You can take it, I text them or email them photos occasionally and say, hey, what is going on here? Again, not as much anymore as I used to have to, but occasionally it's nice to have. And if you go to make a presentation, you got all the great. OCT, again, very helpful. If you have one, use it for this purpose. And you can scan the central part of the lens, even on a hybrid. And sometimes on some of these thick, soft lenses, you can see a little bit more what's going on, and then certainly on the edges. But that central sagittal depth will fit back there. The care and feeding of these lenses is real important. Patients need to understand they've got to follow your instructions. You can't just go do anything they want. On Facebook, there's a Keratoconus group on Facebook, which is mainly made for keratoconic patients, and they all write in. Half the time, they're talking about, what should I do? How do I take care of it? And I'm always like, why don't you ask your doctor? Why aren't they telling you this? What proper things to use? It used to be we all use Unisol. Non-preserved saline is not made anymore. So what we've all found is those little pink tubes are just straight saline. They're actually made for inhaler machines. And you can give a patient a prescription for it. They can get it at the pharmacy. It's behind the counter of the prescription, but some of their insurance will pay for it. But mostly they can buy a box of these from our office or online for $20 or 100 of these things. It's what we used to tool back then before putting it on. When people start using other weird things, they start putting in their pure moist or something, well, the cornea doesn't like that sitting on there the whole time. So giving them the proper instructions. I feel for any gas permeable lens, whether it's small or large, is a hydrogen peroxide system. I feel it makes the best biofilm, the best clean lens. There are still people like, unique pH and things like that are fine. but that's got to come off the lens before it goes in the eye. So it's another step for patients. So this is what again, I live these every day. I want something that's easy also. So, it goes in the hydrogen peroxide at night, and they take it out and try not to handle it too much. Fill it up. We use those little holders. Hopefully most of you have maybe played with lenses in wet labs or seen one. You can put on a little holder, fill it up in saline, and get it in there. My staff is amazing at teaching people how to put them in and out. I think in all the years I maybe had one patient that just couldn't do it. The guys, especially harder, not using their eyes. Their fingers are gigantic, and some of these people, for some reason, I get these big, giant Latino guys with keratoconus, and their hands they're working all day, and their hands are all gnarly, but they even figure it out. There's cleaners we can use. There's also, some of these lenses are too big to fit in the regular cups. This brand we use is One Step from now made by Cooper. But you can certainly use Keratoconus and others. The thing is, Keratoconus now, they have the hydroglide, and it sometimes causes issues with coating on some lenses I find. So I like this better. Also something we keep in the office. It keeps them more involved in our office. We get their year supply from us. We can sort of monitor better what they're using. Sometimes the little cups are too small. There is a giant one that's made for these lenses that are over 17 or 18, 19, 20 millimeters. They have a big cage. And then the patients are going to complain to you, now doc, I use more solution. So, you're here, you've got somebody from 2250 to close to 2020, and they still have the complaints like everybody. And, a lot of these patients you fit expectations, just like we do, fitting a multifocal soft lens, and we tell them a million times, expectations is not going to be perfect, not going to be perfect, not going to be perfect. They come back and say, doc, it's not perfect. And it's the same with sclerals. I get these people from glasses at 2200 and nothing, they can't see anything, and then I get them 20/25 vision, they come in, and I see a little bit, those lights, they're a little flary and glary, but you gotta try to set it up as good as you can and go from there. And make sure you're reading the right stuff. My main thing, if any more questions, I guess I might have 5 more minutes or so, but that we'll probably get the next speaker and get you out of here earlier, which I might get the most applause for. So I'll bring up whoever's coming up next, and thank you. Anybody has any questions, there's my info. I also, at the bottom, I made an ebook recently. Mainly it's for patients, but I put a lot of what this is all about and all the misconceptions they have and all that. So you're free to look at that. You can go to ebook.download. When the patients do it, if you do it just from my website, you're also going to get a bunch of emails from me. Hey, did you read my book and all this stuff, and look at page 12 and all that, which you might find interesting. If you want to just look at it and see, and this is what I give to patients, you're welcome to use it. You can link it from my website and all that if you want the patients. We put a lot of work into that. I think it helps again with some of the misconceptions. So thank you.